dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And you're back on Liberty Nation Radio, heard coast to coast on the Radio America Network. I remain your host, Mark Angelides. We're joining conversation with Liberty Nation's enterprise reporter, Joe Schaefer, who covers so many different beats, many of them with a globalist bent, which I find one of the most fascinating topics to cover, because it's really masquerading, Joe, isn't it? These globalist ideas are masquerading as mainstream thought when really they're quite outside the Overton window. And I think the one that's really taken root in the last, let's say, 6 or 7 years, maybe longer actually, let's be honest with it is illegal immigration. And while Trump now seems to have the US southern border under control, I mean, he's really got that under control. It's quite surprising that it's happened without actual legislation having to be put into place. We are still seeing an influx of illegal migrants coming in by boat. And I've forgotten the name of the agency. It's the U.S. Naval Institute said that something along the lines of illegal immigrant interdiction operations were in a state of emergency because people are just coming in by boat and they don't really know what to do about it, because you can't covering the southern border is tough enough, but covering the entire coastal regions of the United States it's an impossible task, isn't it?
Yeah, and I've written about that a couple times.
Yeah.
Florida and California has had a major problem with this. In California, they have these panga boats, I believe they're called, and they can just zip right in there and drop off these illegal aliens, and they're in the heartland. And of course, under the Biden administration, they really weren't making much of an effort to help the state. South Florida would have loved to have cracked down on it, but they weren't getting any federal help. So Trump has stressed that they're going to step up, this in California and Florida. And, again, we see California doesn't want to cooperate at all with the Trump administration. So that's an interesting battlefront. People are talking about Los Angeles and San Francisco. They should be talking about the coastline and, these blue, because you've got these blue radicals and these, fashionable towns on the California coast. They're welcoming these boats in. It's going to be another major headache for ICE. We've already got these protests in the cities. So, yeah, it is a major problem that has kind of gone under the radar when we're talking about this massive deportation operation.
Yeah, it's almost a backdoor way of facilitating illegal immigration. Boats turn up like San Diego and they just get off the boats. They disappear into the interior of the United States. Who knows who they are? Who knows where they're going? Who knows what their intentions are? And because it's not the kind of place that's really patrolled by anybody, because you can't, due to the sheer size, it's the perfect entry point for people who wish the United States harm, because they know they're not going to encounter Border Patrol agents. They know that in certain locales they're going to get a welcoming blanket and a hot meal and be on your way, good sir. And then they wander off and who knows what they're doing. And this is a particular interest to me because I'm from the United Kingdom. And what we've seen over the last few years there is just a massive surge of what the media always terms asylum seekers, even though these are people that have traveled through numerous safe countries to France. And France is not at war. There's no good reason to be fleeing France, I might add. And then they embark on an admittedly dangerous journey across the channel in boats that are often unfit. And they get ashore, they get processed, they get put up in hotels, they get put up in houses of multiple occupancy, and strange new build barracks or things in small towns and villages across the United Kingdom. And it is really pushing Britons to the brink, made worse by the fact that just this last week, an online digital safety bill came into being, which was made law by the former Conservative government, the Tory party, and came into force this week past. And it was billed as, this will stop children accessing pornography online. And what it actually did, as we've now seen, is it means that anybody sharing pictures of, for example, anti-illegal immigration protests, all these pictures get blocked out, and you have to verify who you are to look at the pictures. And at the same time, we hear that the government is setting up, I believe the term is, I might have this slightly wrong, but it's words to the effect of a crack police unit that will be looking for anti-illegal immigrant sentiment online. And it's almost as though the UK government doesn't want people complaining about people breaking laws to get into the United Kingdom. And it seems to me that the two stories, the US side and the UK side, they're both linked, they're similar, and it's for the same reasons.
It's funny, I tried not to smile when you were talking about a very, Orwellian and unpleasant situation, but it's hard not to smile when you see them using the same playbook over and over again. They've done it my entire life. I was a child of the 70s and 1980s, and I saw it then. They say this is for your own good. They take something hideous like, child pornography. We have to protect the kids. The Simpsons, the TV show, they would make this a running joke. The hysterical woman saying, "Won't somebody think of the children?" You use that line and you could do anything. You could absolutely do anything. So they use it. Hey, we got to protect these kids. Come up with this harsh, online censorship law. And now they are going to, my understanding is they have already arrested people for making anti-migrant comments on the internet. That's going on in this supposedly free United Kingdom right now. And so that the footprint, the way they got their foot in the tyrannical door, is saying we've got to protect kids from pornography. And then zoom, they go right for their globalist agenda. They've been doing it literally my entire life. I'm sure they've been doing it your entire life in the UK. And they use these cultural tools, weapons they've used it to great effect for decades. So why should they stop? There's no reason for them to stop.
The author, and he's known as a big conspiracy theorist, very prolific author as well, I might add, David Icke. He calls it the totalitarian tiptoe, where they introduce something and move it several steps further along by using what he calls problem reaction solution. So there's a problem, or there's a problem that's created, and then the people say that people have the reaction, "Oh no, won't someone think of the children?" which is the desired reaction. And then they have a pre-packaged solution that just happens to infringe upon your individual rights, but people are clamoring for it. And it's a disaster from which there appears to be no stepping back. I think that's quite a tragic situation, that what liberties once given away are so rarely returned.
Yeah, I mean, that's it in a nutshell. And I'm kind of biting at the chop to talk about in greater terms. We want to narrow the conversation to immigration, but it is just a total cultural weaponization against the citizens of a nation. And we see it over and over again. I think they know it's not convincing anybody anymore, which is why you're seeing it being more harsh, more tyrannical, more out in the open, punitive, because that's really the only card they have left at this point, is to scare people, to threaten them with jail time, et cetera, et cetera. They've lost the argument on immigration, in my opinion, and nation after nation, they've lost the argument. And now it comes, can they hold on to their fortress? Because there's no winning on their side anymore. They just want to keep trying to push something that the people of these countries do not want.
We're going to continue this conversation with Joe Schaefer after this short break. Don't go anywhere.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.